Hi everybody, my name is Aaron and welcome back to my channel. This week the Clearwater City Council sent Scientology a pretty clear message that they are not going to put up with Scientology's bullshit. The Clearwater City Council members tend to receive a lot of criticism that they are woefully uneducated about, ignorant of Scientology's tactics, their intentions, ignorant of some of the true facts relating to Scientology, the organization's size, the organization's purpose, the purpose of the flag land base. And that criticism has its place, but I think we need to give the City Council credit where credit is due. And this week, they took an opportunity to show Scientology and show the world that the council isn't going to be bullied by Scientology. It's not going to be fooled by a lot of the vicious and false propaganda that they sling at their enemies. And once I explain what they did, some might be like, well, that's not really a big deal. But I'll tell you what, anything the council does that shows the world that Scientology does not run Clearwater, that Scientologists do not run Clearwater, that Scientology doesn't really have that much political influence, really hardly any political or social influence in Clearwater. Anything the council does to show the world that that is true is very valuable in my opinion. The real nutshell version of what happened here is there is an elected board in the city of Clearwater called the Downtown Development Board. And out of the 7 seats on this board, 5 of them are held by actual Scientologists, and a 6th seat is held by a lawyer who works for Scientology. So basically 6 out of 7 people on this board are either Scientologists or in the pocket of Scientology. Last week I uploaded a video that explained this in pretty good detail. I'll link to it down below. But again, the summary is that Mark Bunker, a well-known Scientology critic, was elected to Clearwater City Council a year ago. And once he was elected to the council, he was then appointed to be one of 2 council members who attend the monthly meetings of the Downtown Development Board. So all of a sudden you had a very well-known outspoken critic of the abuses of Scientology sitting on a board with 6 people who are in the pocket of Scientology. And they could not let this stand. So a year ago, when Mark was appointed to this board, the Scientologists on the board threatened to get him removed one way or another. And this past week, they attempted to do that officially by requesting the City Council change its rules. So instead of sending 2 representatives to attend the monthly Downtown Development Board meeting, they asked the council to only send 1 representative. And the Scientologists on this board assumed that because one of the representatives was Mark Bunker and because the other representative was Mayor Frank Hibbard, that of course, if the number of representatives the council sent to the meeting was reduced from 2 to 1, that of course it would be Mark Bunker who would be removed and not Mayor Hibbard. This was extremely childish. This was an extremely poorly thought out and executed strategy on behalf of the Scientologists on the board. But nonetheless, they attempted to do it. And based on past behavior, one could not be faulted for thinking that the council, due to maybe some ignorance or due to some just wanting to keep the peace, would go along with the Downtown Development Board's request and to effectively remove Mark Bunker from the council. And unfortunately, doing that would have sent a message to the world that Scientology does kind of pull the strings in this town, that people do care what Scientologists think, that Scientology does have influence. And that would have been a terrible, terrible thing. And instead, what the council did was to call out Scientology for exactly what they were trying to do. And when I say Scientology, I do mean Scientologists. But when it comes to matters like what we're talking about here, you really can't differentiate between Scientologists as individual people and the organization that is the Church of Scientology. Because Scientologists who have anything to do with public office represent first and foremost the agenda of the Church of Scientology. That's not to say that a Scientologist holding some public office couldn't have positive intentions for the public good, but every single decision such a Scientologist would make, whether that decision benefited Scientology, would in all cases be more of a priority than whether that decision would benefit the public at large. There is no question in anybody's mind that what the Scientologists on this board were trying to do was nothing more and nothing less than executing the agenda of the Church of Scientology. It had nothing to do with performing the duties of the Downtown Development Board. It had nothing to do with what would be best for the people of Clearwater. It had nothing to do with what would be best for the City Council or its members. It was purely advancing the agenda of the Church of Scientology. And the City Council showed that it had no appetite for it, didn't appreciate it, and 3 of the City Council members went so far as to say that they would be willing to accept the request to reduce the number of council representatives who attend the DDB meetings from 2 to 1, but to then make Mark Bunker the sole council representative to attend the meetings. That would actually have been an even better result, because that would have taken the efforts that the Scientologists were trying to put out to turn it around, turn it back on them, and make their own situation even worse. However, what happened is that Mayor Hibbard does very much value the ability to attend the Downtown Development Board meetings. So he said, look, I want Mark to continue to be on the DDB. I want to continue to be on the DDB, and I don't want Mark and I to be in a battle over who gets to stay on the DDB. Why don't we just ignore the DDB's request and continue on with the status quo? That is a perfectly acceptable result. It would have been even better if Mark Bunker was the sole council member. But again, having Mayor Hibbard and Mark Bunker on the DDB is what's best for the council. It is what's best for the city. So even though sending Mark as the sole representative would have been a giant middle finger to the Scientologists, the truth is how this worked out is really what is best for the council and the city. So it's a fantastic resolution. So now that I've given the context and a bit of a summary, watch what actually happened.
I would like to take the agenda out of order. I think we need to tackle item 12.1 first before we do the appointments for 10.5. And personally, I will just tell you, I think we ought to decline on the resolution from the DDB. Do one of you want to present the item? Amanda?
Amanda Thompson, Director of the Community Redevelopment Agency. 2 CRA, 2 City Council members serve as ex officios to the Downtown Development Board. Recently, at the past DDB meeting, they adopted a resolution requesting that number be reduced to 1 ex officio member. So that is what you've been asked to consider as City Council tonight.
Thank you. So, any questions, comments? Councilmember Bunker?
Before I was appointed to the Downtown Development Board last year, several of the board members appeared here to say, please don't appoint Mr. Bunker, and the board president, Paris Morfopoulos, said at that time, if you do, we could take action as a board to remove him if we have to. And it seems like this was the second attempt to kind of do that. So I would request that we not pass this, and I would like to stay on the board if I may.
Well, you're no longer vice mayor. Sorry, Councilmember Albritton.
No, that's going to be real hard for you.
I'll get it wrong a couple times, I'm sure.
Yeah, just a comment. I've been thinking about this a lot since, and I went back and watched the DDB meeting. I think that it would probably be okay to take it down to 1, and I was going to suggest that you be the 1, because I don't know if we need 2 on there. But this issue is it's a tough one, because we have a board that's made up of Scientology members, and then we have you as an outspoken opponent, and I know that it mixes like oil and water, you know. But your job is just to answer questions, and I'm fine with having you there in that position to do that. If you can do that, I don't have a problem with dropping it to 1, but I want to listen to what everybody else says.
Vice Mayor?
My whole issue here is timing. You'd have to be deaf, dumb, blind, and dead not to see a connection between the timing of this resolution and what the DDB's makeup is and who our ex officio members are. My first gut reaction to this is to not accept the resolution and let's keep the status quo. And I also agree with Councilmember Albritton that if we're going to accept the resolution and go down to 1, I have no problem leaving Mark there. I'm most comfortable in just not accepting the resolution and keeping the status quo.
Councilmember Beckman?
I would tend to echo Vice Mayor Hamilton and Councilmember Albritton. Either keep it status quo, go down to 1, and retain Councilmember Bunker.
Councilmember Bunker?
I appreciate all your comments, and I understand, and you're right. I don't have a problem respecting the board members. The organization, Scientology, I have a problem with. And when I hear someone, as they have, say horrible things to me, I know that's not them speaking. They've been taught that anyone who criticizes Scientology is a criminal. You just have to dig up their crimes, and if you can't, manufacture them. That's straight from L. Ron Hubbard. So I've never been offended by anything that they've said, and I've never said anything like that back to them. So I'm not there specifically to cause trouble. I'm there to show that because there are so many Scientologists on that board, people tend to think Scientology controls the city. And that's not true. And I think me being in the room just kind of suggests, well, okay, no, they don't have a say over who the city council appoints to the board. And I think that's a positive. And I think that's what we need to show the citizens of Clearwater, that they don't have the power that even the Scientologists themselves think that they do. It's good to have me in the room, and I hope I can stay.
I mean, I still care about being on it. That's why I'm recommending rejecting it. I'd like to stay on the DDB as well. I don't want to pit us against each other for that appointment. And so I think, first of all, it sends the right message to reject the resolution. And secondly, we just reappoint.
That's what I was gonna ask Pam. Are we rejecting the resolution, or are we just taking no action on their resolution?
You're really taking no action.
So then we need no motion whatsoever. Okay.
All right.
Then we'll go back to item 10.5.
There you go. I think that is just fantastic. Again, we have to give the council credit where credit is due. And when I said before that the council takes a lot of criticism unfairly, I think the kind of unfair criticism that I'm talking about is blaming the council for the fact that Scientology buys up so much property, that there's something the council should be doing about that specifically. I think that type of criticism is unfair because there is simply no way for elected city council members or the city government of Clearwater to prevent an entity such as Scientology from buying property. There's a million different ways to buy property through various LLCs and shell companies and everything. There's really nothing the city can do to keep that from happening. That being said, there are plenty of things the council could be doing to push back on Scientology incursion in Clearwater. Things they could say from the council dais, things they could be doing behind the scenes that I don't believe they are doing. There's plenty of fair criticism to be sent their way, but this really was a fantastic opportunity for them to put their foot down and send a message, and they did just that. So kudos to them. You'll notice in Mark Bunker's comments there, he said something I thought was fantastic, that, you know, with the Downtown Development Board being dominated by Scientologists, it creates the perception on behalf of many that Scientology controls Clearwater, and that Mark's presence on the DDB all by itself serves to counteract that perception. I go into this subject in more depth in the last video I uploaded called, I'm pretty sure it's called, Scientologists Try to Get Rid of Mark Bunker. It looks kind of like this. And so if you haven't yet seen that video, I would recommend checking it out. The person spearheading the effort to kick Mark Bunker off of the DDB is Paris Morfopoulos, longtime Scientologist, chairman of the DDB, and I would be remiss if I didn't take yet another opportunity to introduce everyone to the wonderful Paris Morfopoulos. Here is Paris harassing Mark Bunker on a public sidewalk in Clearwater back in 2000.
Until you lose some weight, get the hell away from me, you know? Are you on your 50 Twinkie a day habit now, or what? If you can't control your eating habits, Mark, what about your sexual habits? Where do they run to? Small children? Huh? Animals? What is it, small barnyard animals? What does it for you? Little boys? I told you I don't want to be videotaped by you.
Then why approach me on a public street?
Because I want you to get the hell out of here.
Remember, boys and girls, never go full Morfopoulos. All right, well, that's all I have for now. Thank you to everyone who watched until the end. If you like this content, please give me a like down below, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe